Hi, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. They're always exciting. They're always exciting. That's one of the things that I say at the very beginning of almost every episode because I'm excited to be here and glad to be talking with author, artist. Does comics creator fit? Does that work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Lucas Turnbloom. Lucas, thank you for jumping on. Thank you for
Hey, thanks for
joining.
having me.
My
No,
pleasure.
this is a pleasure. This is a wonderful way to kick off the day.
Love it, love it. And same here, by all means. Loving the office space, the musical collection that's currently residing. Love a good bookshelf spot too. And I see the
Yep.
music, I see all the inspirations in the creative world that you're living in.
And all the chaos, as we were talking before the show, is over there. I sit over there and cry as I'm creating in the big mess that nobody can see. But this looks good over here, right? This looks all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it looks great. It sounds very cathartic. It sounds like an emotional process. So I'll
Oh, it is.
mention I'll mention a couple of titles here, and then if I miss anything that you want to make sure to add, we can certainly do that too. And so the first one is Steve L. The middle initial has to be there, McEvil. You're wearing the hat. There it is. It floats up.
There's book, and there's book two. Yeah.
Love it. Love a series. Love it. Love it. Nice hardcover editions. Perfect durable quality for young hands and older hands to roam through.
So there's
Dream
two books in the
Jumper.
series.
Dream
Oh, no
Jumper.
worries.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah. Yeah, there's two books in the series for Scholastic books or graphics. Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. I can't read my own notes there. And then you also have a few other books as well. Toys in the Attic being one of those that's
Yeah.
younger reader focused.
Yeah, that's based off of my webcomic, Imagine This, which still runs on the Go Comics website, Andrews McMeal. That ran for, I want to say, 5 or 6 years. It's in reruns right now, but yeah, actually, I think you could still get the books on Lulu because it's a print on demand service. So, I mean, anybody who's truly interested in going old school, Imagine This, in the late 2000s, check out Lulu. There should be 3 books up there. So there should be
Perfect.
Toys in the
Perfect.
Attic, Dewey versus True, or Dewey defeats Truman,
Hmm.
and the first one, the Klovax, I think is what it was called.
Yeah. Yeah. Did I miss any titles that or links or anything there that you want to make sure to mention that folks might know you for?
Currently, I think most people probably know me through the webcomic How to Cat, which is
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
it is a social media based webcomic. There is a website that's in the works, and there's a store actually that's launching as we're recording this. It launches either August 1st or July 31st. One of so soon. So anybody who wants How to Cat stuff, there's the
Nice,
one cat.
nice.
Those aren't in the store yet, but they're coming. And yeah, so I mean, you can sign up for my newsletter, which is, you just find that on any of my social media feeds, and it'll give you more information. Or you can find the store next week, August
Awesome.
1st.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll make sure to drop this a little bit sooner so that we get the August 1st time frame just here in a couple of days. So
Cool.
sounds great. Sounds great. I was a middle school teacher for 8 years. I've been a literacy prof and worked with younger children and currently working with high school. And I just got to say that I appreciate when authors use their talent, artistry to create books that have some really nice appeal for young readers. And I feel like that's the case with you. And so I'm glad you said yes to this talk.
No, I'm happy to do it. And an interesting thing too, and I didn't know this. I hear it every single year at Comic Con is I go there to promote the books I do for Scholastic and for Random House.
Hmm.
But I always hear about the How to Cat comic, and I know that especially this year, I've had teachers come up to me and say, "We use your comic, the How to Cat comic, in the classroom. Is that okay?" And I said, "Of course. Like
Love
you
it.
don't need you don't that's okay with you." I said, "Absolutely. Anytime you can use it for educational purposes, I'm all on board." So
Awesome. Awesome. And just fun, engaging reading as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, anything I can do to help kids to either work on their writing or work on their reading, I'm for it.
Awesome. What connected you as an author and creator? What were the titles, the artists, the pop culture things that drew you into this world?
Oh wow. Well, I'm a kid of the 80s, so there was a lot
Same.
of right, there's a lot. I mean, we were born into such a a magical time. And I always tell children this whenever I do a school presentation. The 80s truly was magical. I mean, everything we know now pretty much started. I mean, you got Transformers, Ninja Turtles, you've
Mm-hmm.
got G.I. Joe, you've got, I mean, everything. Even for, I always use Star Wars, even though Star Wars began in the 70s. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Empire Strikes Back, Boba Fett, 1980,
Oh yeah.
Indiana Jones. It's just, there was so much inspiration in terms of pop culture then too. But also, I learned to read in the 80s, and we had newspapers around the house. And, I discovered, you know, Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes. The Far Side was a huge one for me. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
truthfully, those really just kind of piqued my interest in drawing and storytelling. And that's really where it began. It was just everything. There was so much creativity in that decade that I couldn't not create something, So I got into music, into art. I joke with my kids because now they make movies on their phones, in the backyard. They make these cool
Mm-hmm.
little movies. And I told them, I said, had I had that when I was your age, my life would have been completely different. Because back then, I was making movies, but it was I'd borrow a giant camcorder and I'd be walking
Mm-hmm.
around and I'd have like
Mm-hmm.
three VCRs set up in the living room, and I was doing this analog editing, and it looked terrible, but the creativity was there. But had I had that technology, I think I'd probably be in Hollywood somewhere attempting to make a living as some sort of director, or I don't know, probably a stagehand or something. I don't know.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. It's crazy, and I mean anybody can do like stop motion, all the things.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. And I do, I mean, some of the recordings I make of my kids' school presentations look better than anything I did in the 80s and 90s, and that's just with my little phone. I'm just like zooming in and adding music and correcting the light and everything. So
Yeah, yeah. And it's all right there on the phone. So you don't have to have the back
yeah,
problems of like a camcorder on the shoulder. Love it.
right. That's right. Or you don't need a crew either. I mean, there's the audio is good enough on this thing, and you don't need to have like an audio crew running around. And we're going way off topic here, but my point is that the 80s was just truly a creative time, and that's really what just did it for me. There was just so much around me that I couldn't not create something, and
Mhm.
I just had that in me. And I come from a very creative family. My brother is creative, my sister's creative, my parents are creative. And there I was always encouraged to just do what I can in the art world. And if you make a living, great. If not, it's a great hobby. So I
Love it.
lucked out and I make a living at it. So that's pretty good.
So what connected you to creating for young people? And I say creating for young people. Older people can enjoy your work too. I do.
Mhm.
But I would say primary audience being something that's accessible. You create very accessible books that are not going to create nightmares, I don't think, or anything like that.
Well, um, I always write for me, and I think I have a very I don't want to say juvenile in a bad way, but I have a juvenile sense of humor. So I know how I'm going to get a laugh from kids. So it's easy for me to write for children, because that's kind of my sense of humor. Now, my editor helps me bring it down a little bit. So she'll say, okay, this is fantastic. However, it's a little too old. So you need to
Mm,
kind of bring it down. They're not going to like it if you use, if you're going to call somebody stupid, you want to use a more creative word. Or, the editors are very, very good at guiding me, because, like I said, I'm pretty good at writing stories for kids because that is my sense of humor. But the editor will help me really generate it towards a specific age group, which is fantastic. I love when I first started this, it was just doing webcomic stuff, and I was my own editor, and I would make my own mistakes, and sometimes they were pretty big mistakes. But working with an editor now, I don't know that I could write a graphic novel any other way, because they
mm.
really do help you and they really protect you from making terrible mistakes. So yes, I am very immature, and I have to have a editor holding my hand to make sure that I do it right. So that's the key.
I think it's a superpower to write for young people. I think tapping into that audience and speaking that language, I think it's a power for sure.
It's definitely some days when you're not in the zone, it's harder. But when you're on a deadline, you can't really, you don't have the luxury of saying, I'll do it tomorrow. You got
Right.
to just push through it. And then if it's really bad, you can revisit it a few days later. And that's one of the things I've learned about doing this over the last 2 decades is that um, you got to just push through it. You got to, if you don't find the funny on the first day, come back to it a couple days later, but you have to work. If you don't work, you'll never get it done. And that's a
Hmm.
reality that I hear a lot from comics creators who want to get into the business, but they just don't know how. They're like, well, I want to do it, but I can't get started. And my advice is just do something. Even if it's
Yeah.
just for 30 minutes a day, do it. And then at the end of the month, you've got all of this material. You can go back and clean it up. You can go back and say, this was garbage. Let me try it again. You can go back and say, this is gold. Let me work on it. You just have to just kind of push through. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Love that. So I was going to ask about a couple of the particular titles and anything that you want to share about the inspiration for those and how they've come to be. And of
mhm.
course, the first one is Steve L. McEvil. I feel like I have to put the L there. There it is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's and actually that's like a sing-songy thing because in the book we deliberately put a thing in there where the kids they do like a sing-song teasing to Steve, and then at the end it becomes like a cheer for him because he saves the world. So it's like
Yeah,
Steve L. McEvil, Steve L. McEvil. So that's why that's like that.
love it.
And I thought, it would help kids to remember. But I will say that the inspiration for book, and I keep holding up book one because I want people to see it.
Hmm.
Um, the inspiration actually for book one, it came from like a place of desperation. I was trying to figure out how do I break into the industry, and I was faced against one of these thoughts that we all have is, well, every idea has been done. Every idea has been
Hmm.
done. What do I have to offer? Well, the reality is that yes, every idea has been done, but you can take an idea and make it your own. You can
Hmm. Hmm.
approach it in a different way that hasn't been done. And so, so what if Star Wars has been done? I mean, take it in a different direction. I mean, look what Zack Snyder just did. He couldn't make a Star Wars movie, so he made his own Star Wars. It may be
Hmm.
garbage, who knows? But I mean, at least he did it.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
happened was I was not having the type of success that I wanted. So because newspapers are dying, you can't get into newspapers, the comic book industry is shrinking, it's very hard. I mean, there's a bazillion people who want to draw Superman and Batman, so I had to come up with another way. And honestly, I went to the bookstore and I saw Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I
Hmm.
saw
Hmm.
Smile by Raina Telgemeier, I saw Amulet, I saw the collected works of Bone, and that just it opened my eyes to because that stuff didn't exist when I was trying to get into the industry. It came a little bit later, and then I thought, wow, I really want to do this all ages
Hmm.
graphic novels. And so originally, what Steve L. McEvil was it was illustrated prose exactly like Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Um, and I took it and I found an agent thanks to my good friend Norm Feudy, who he did the comic strip Retail and Gill. And he had an agent and he said, hey, why don't you contact Judy, my agent? So I did. And she contacted me immediately. She said she loved the idea. And then what happened is as this was all kind of working out, Dream Jumper, it kind of came in my lap. My friend Greg said, I have this idea. He's like, can you help me write it? And do you want to illustrate it? And I said, yeah. So I told my agent, I said, can we sit on McEvil for a little bit so I can finish the Dream Jumper stuff? And she said, yeah. And then over the next 5, 6 years, we did Dream Jumper and it was great. It was a lot of fun. And
Hmm.
then when I finally got back to Steve L. McEvil, um, the landscape had changed. And my agent said, listen, uh, illustrated prose, some are selling phenomenally, like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dork Diaries, Big Nate. They're all doing fantastic, but anything that's coming up is just floundering. It's not doing well. So she's like, why don't you try it as a graphic novel since you already did 2 Dream Jumper books? And I said, okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's how this came to be. And it all started from a doodle I did back in like 2006, 2007, just a doodle I was doing while I was depressed during the day job. I was drawing something, but I held on to that doodle because I liked the character of Steve. And it was pretty much almost this image, just
Uh,
his face. And that's how that came to be. And that blossomed, I think, from again, Charlie Brown, Calvin and Hobbes, Garfield, The Far Side, Bloom County. It just there's a very comic strip like quality to this book, even though it's a graphic
mhm.
novel. It's it combines the superhero genre of Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Spider-Man with the ridiculous silliness of comic strips. And that's really the marriage of creativity that I've always wanted to do, and now I can do it. And it
Hmm.
wasn't available to me 15 years ago, but now I can do it, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, it's I hear from kids all the time. I mean, it was during one of the panels at Comic-Con this year. We were waiting in line to get up to go to the front, and I was talking with some people. I was talking with our contact at Random House, and this kid runs up and comes up to me and says, "I love your book. I love your book." And I'm like, which one? And he's like, the second one, the one that just came out. I'm like, oh, sweet. I'm like, okay, so stay after the panel. I will give you a drawing. And I did. And
Love it.
I remember I was talking to the kid's mom, and I said, I haven't drawn anything in a couple of days. I might be a little rusty. So the drawing wasn't as good as it could be, but they were very appreciative. And that to me is worth all of it, is worth 20 years of struggling to be where I'm at now. I couldn't be happier. And I'm so glad people are liking these books. I would love
Hmm.
to keep doing them. But that relies on word of mouth. And so we'll see where I'm at in a year from today. But right now
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier.
Well, always glad to talk about the upcoming titles, and that's one of the things I love a good series book. I love because it's the young reader connecting with book one, then book two, and so may it continue
Yeah.
beyond. And I hope you get to explore lots there. You might have answered one of the other questions that I had between talking about film and
Okay.
talking about the comics, but it was going to be, what do comics allow you to do?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
if there's anything that I missed there that you want to make sure to mention, I'd be glad to hear what you have to say.
Well, I mean, comics allow me to basically just kind of live my dream. I've like we talked about, I've loved drawing and I love writing, both equally. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
just the pure writer, and I don't think I'm just the pure artist. I like to put the two together. Like, nor ordinarily when I'm working on something, I'll have a notebook next to me, and it'll have part of a draft with a bunch of silly drawings, and then I'd have to try to combine it. So comics allows me to really like scratch that creative need.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the wonderful thing about this is it allows me to share my creativity with my audience. So I do a lot of school visits recently, especially. I mean, the kids love to hear about the creative process, and I love explaining to them. And I actually touched on this at Comic-Con this year. One of the panels is that everybody who is in this industry has their own story about how they broke into it. Now,
Mhm.
there is no cookie cutter formula. There is no X, Y, and Z. Everybody's story is completely different. And that fascinates me because as I was trying to break into this industry, I could never find an X, Y, or Z. It was
Yeah.
always like, well, you do this and then you do that, and maybe. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, so do I write the draft? Do I write the full document? Do I illustrate the whole thing and then I find an agent, or do I define the agent? So it's everybody's story is different. So, and a lot of creatives will love to talk about their journey, unless you've reached this, strata of where you're selling 10 million books a week. Then it's a little harder for those creatives to talk to the audience because there's so many people just sending them questions. But I mean, when
Mhm.
you're dealing with somebody like me who's just kind of like right in the middle, we love to talk about it because it was so hard for a lot of us to get into this industry. And and I don't want to say we're floating, but it ebbs and flows. It was just like I was talking about a minute ago. The McEvil books, they really started as illustrated prose. And the books one and two are actually a combination of the first book, and I had to split them apart. So it changes. The landscape changes every couple years, and some of the people who worked on the first McEvil book, they're not with Random House anymore. They've moved on, and I've got new people, and it's just how it is. And it's really wonderful to be able to tell my story to people who really want to get into this industry. Because again, it's my story is just not usual. It started out on the web, and I did the web for a long time. And then I had a friend who had an agent who had a story. We pitched it, and then and then McEvil comes along, and I just happened to find an agent, and it took me a long time to sell it, by the way. It wasn't just an overnight thing. It took a long time. Yeah, many years actually. Um, but that's one of the really cool things that being involved in comics allows me to do. It allows me to be creative and allows me to talk to people about how I got here. So that's I think those are the two big things.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. And yeah, you might be the first person that I've talked to talking about the uniqueness of the story that said I was going to do illustrated prose and it became this.
Mhm.
So it really speaks to that.
It's amazing though when you talk to people how often that happens, how often the plan changes. You
Hmm.
think you're going to do this, you think you're going to do that. I mean, I in my head when I started out, I there was a contest in the early 2000s. I don't know if you know it, but it was I don't even remember the creative person who started it, but it was a big time syndicated cartoonist who was he created a second comic strip but didn't have time to do it, so he was looking for an illustrator to take it over. He would still write it. I wish I could remember who it was, but there was a lot of web cartoonists like myself who all dove in, and I
Uh-huh.
met a lot of cool. I met a lot of cool people during that time, and that I'm still friends with. But to me, that's where my story began. I'm like, I'm going to get this job and it's going to lead me here, there, and the other place. And of course, that didn't happen.
Right,
And
right.
my career is a series of those events. Like when I started Dream Jumper, never in a million years did I think that would happen. But that all stemmed from when I did some charity work for the Epilepsy Foundation. I met my friend Greg through there because I was donating artwork to raise money for the Epilepsy Foundation. And we formed a friendship, and then that's how he knew I was doing comics, and he was asking me my thoughts on Dream Jumper, and I thought, this is fantastic. I would love to be involved in this if you want me to. I can, like I said, I can help write it and I can illustrate the whole thing. And you just never know where you're going to be in this industry. It just, I mean, and I guess that's the truth for life in general. You just
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
make plans and then it just goes out the window, and you just kind of just do your thing. So that's really my career in a nutshell. Is just, I don't know what I'm doing. Here I am. I hope you like my stuff. People seem to like it, so I love to keep doing it. So here I am.
Awesome. And we travel along with the mystery.
That's right. Absolutely.
So final official question, and then we can hit anything that we've missed, and that is, I always like to conclude with a little talk about any upcoming things, ideas that you can share about. I know sometimes that's in NDA territory, so
Mhm.
whatever fits best there. Upcoming events, you mentioned that you just came back from San Diego, so glad you weren't part of the COVID bubble there. Seems to have hit
I've noticed
several
it.
people.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, yes.
and then web spaces that folks can check out. It's a
Okay.
three-pronged final question.
Okay, let me make sure that I get all the answers here.
Yes, yes.
Upcoming events. I was going to do San Diego Comic Fest, which is it's like a smaller version of Comic Con, but they canceled it this year, and they're moving it to next year. So I'm hoping to do that then.
Hmm.
And then other
Hmm.
than school visits, obviously, so nothing on a national level. I would really like to hit the American Library Association things next year, but again, that's up in the air.
Right.
Things that I'm working on. Okay, so we mentioned the How To Cat store, which launches, I believe, August 1st. It might launch the 31st, depending on my work schedule, but it launches this coming week after we record this. I am working on McEvil book 3. It is a trilogy, so as of right now, it's 3 books. The story concludes, but it leads itself to more stories. So the more people that know about the McEvil books, the more books I can tell. But right now it's 3, and we're working on book 3, and we just finished the cover. I wanted to show it to you, but it's too early. But we will probably make that announcement sometime next year.
Cool.
I
Cool.
am working on a this is exclusive to this, actually. I haven't told anybody else. Actually, I told one person off the record at Comic-Con, but I haven't said anything else yet other than my editor. So we are working on a McEvil webcomic
Oh,
that's
love
going to
it. Love it.
launch. It's going to launch next year, I think on January 1st, actually. And it's going to run all of 2024 into 2025 when book 3 comes out. So what it is it's not really a prequel, but it's more like for those who don't know the series, it's a way to introduce the characters without saying, go buy the book.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
it's supports the books. So it's almost like I hate using the word prequel, but that's kind of what it is.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
just it's leading people to the books. So it's like, okay, we have a whole ton of material on the web here. If for more information, this is what it's all about right here. So that launches January 1st. I'm super excited about that. We've already got a few in that are done. And the hope is that's gonna run 5 days a week for the whole year. So I got a lot of work ahead of me, but I'm
Hmm.
excited about that. How to Cat, my big web comic. We are working on books after the store. And I said books plural. I've got two ideas for books. And long story short, the pandemic killed the How to Cat book that was going to happen in 2021.
Hmm.
It just died because everything shut down. It didn't happen. The publishers just went away. We're trying something else. We're looking at either some other publishers or just the heck with it. We're going to crowdfund it. One or the other. It's going to happen. We're going to have more information at the end of the year, probably in January, about that. But plural, two books, because there's something else I'm doing with it too that I think people are really, really going to like. And actually, that idea came to me at Comic-Con again. So Comic-Con, great for creativity, great,
Yes.
getting out with your peers and talking about things. And it really did help me. It was like this aha moment. It's like, why didn't I do that? So got some really cool stuff with How to Cat. I'm so excited about the store. People have been asking for it forever. It's got original art. It's got prints of the comic strips. It's got a lot of cool things. And then, okay, I answered two. What's the third one?
That was web spaces that people can
Oh,
continue to check out.
yeah, just the best place to go would be to find me at my name, Lucas Turnbloom, at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. As long as Twitter's there, who knows? And then Threads.
Hmm.
Threads is the new one. I don't know anything about Threads other than I'm just doing phenomenally over there for whatever reason. I mean,
Congrats. Congrats.
I posted 3 comics. Thank you. I mean, and it's huge. So if you're over there on Threads, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm using it. I understand it's part of Facebook, but I got to get the word out. So so those all lead to everything I'm doing, which is Patreon, my other websites. But those are the main places to get a hold of me. It's just at Lucas Turnbloom and those spaces. And I'm on TikTok too, but I mean, I'm not a Gen Z person, so nobody wants to follow me over there. So
we're
uh,
we're kids of the 80s. So yeah,
right,
yeah, I get you.
right. We're more of the Facebook group, MySpace.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Haven't heard about MySpace in a while. So yeah.
Yeah, me neither. And that honestly, that was beyond me then too. I mean, I
Hmm.
was like, everyone's like, get on MySpace, get on MySpace. I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I got an account, it went away. And then
Yes.
Facebook was the big thing. And I'm like, why do I want to get on Facebook? And then I got on Facebook and everyone's like, get on Instagram. And it's like, ah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I jumped on the Threads thing immediately because I'm like, okay, I want to get in on the ground floor. This is not going to go away because it's part of Meta and it's going to be around. So I might as well get in there early. So, and it seems to be, I
Absolutely.
mean, for the most part, it's other than showing me things I'm not following, which I find very irritating. It's pretty much like Twitter. So, I'm over there. So if you're over there, let's chat.
Cool. Cool. Yep. Putting the good things out on social media, the art and the
Yeah.
creativity. I love it.
Yeah, that's and yeah, and I spend more than enough time on there than I should. I get in trouble sometimes because I'm like, oh, that's right, I got a deadline. I should probably get off of
Yeah, oh
Facebook.
yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for connecting with me. Thank you for taking
No,
some time to talk, and I'm glad to have you back anytime to talk about uh, Dream Jumper, Steve L. McEvil, How to Cat, the How to Cat webcomic, anything that you want to do that you'd like to talk about. McEvil webcomics, all the things.
I'm I thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. Like I said, this really does kind of lift my spirits. I'm here by myself right now, and it's nice to be able to connect with people. And like you were saying, I missed that COVID bug and the only reason for that was is I got COVID about a month before.
Ah, yeah.
So I
Hmm.
was running around with immunity, and actually 2 months before I had the immunity shield on me so I could go and do whatever I want while everybody else is getting sick. I feel terrible though, because I've been seeing that all over the place.
Yeah.
People are just like, oh, I've been taken out with COVID. I was like, oh, I know I sat next to that person for a while. Oh, I know
Hmm.
I shook hands with this person right here. Oh, but so far so good. I mean, I had a little bit of runny nose, but I think that might have just been con crud because I'm fine now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sending the good vibes to the creators and the people out there and the fans that are
Absolutely.
currently hopefully nursing with some good comics and good reads and good memories of the con. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, but truly glad to talk with you anytime, and I'll be
Thank
back
you.
in touch.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.